for this location factor. And then areas that had not experienced land loss, were less. And then you see the red areas there are just areas of large core marsh that are unsuitable for marsh creation restoration. So that's one layer. Just think of this as a lasagna layer, and this is one of the noodles. And I just ate, I'm not hungry. I don't know why. Michelle always uses that analogy, so it's in my head.
It's my fault.
And here's an example of location factor 2. Now, altogether for this issue, we had 9 location factors. We're just going to go through a few of them.
Just
to
three.
give you the idea.
Just 3.
But so here's number two. This is the second highest weighted in the analysis. Key barrier islands, they call them speed bumps, a lot of the guys, that have experienced land loss but are important to provide needed protection. And then working with Michelle, she pulled out an example quote here.
So you have to start on the outside and work your way in. You have to, because if you're working your behind off on the inside and your land is still eating away out there, you can't accomplish anything. So start out there, start protecting that, then you're doing something. And then you can get protected, work your way in.
Right. And so then we're thinking about that, okay, what do we have available to us that we can use to try to represent that location factor? And so, again, GIS processing, taking those layers, reclassifying, recoding. The highest weighted areas of our study area are down by the key barrier islands that have experienced some land loss. And then as you go away from those islands, the priority goes down from the TEK perspective. And then here's another location factor. This is location factor 4. Areas near current or planned restoration projects are more preferable for restoration. And again, another example quote that Michelle pulled.
So the guy said, see, if they build this back up with the siphon, all this would be ready to hold that fresh water. So I think if they put the siphon back on and restore the ridge so they can keep some of that fresh water, plant some vegetation, then those are the things you could do to bring it back. So do marsh creation where it's going to complement existing things.
Right.
Or planned.
And so this is all valuable information, but it's information the state doesn't really have a method of incorporating into its current process. But they would be able and recognize how to incorporate that into it. And this is one of the map for that location factor. So areas near restoration projects are prioritized higher, and as you go away from those restoration projects, the priority gets lower for that location factor. So here's all 9 of them, like I said. We just went through a few of them, but you can see some of the other, poor marsh condition related to fragmentation, which I spoke about earlier. Another one is poor marsh condition related to vegetation condition, greenness and biomass I spoke about earlier. Restoration near ridges to provide enhanced benefit, similar to the restoration projects, reason why they had that location factor in there. Avoid active oyster reef areas and areas near levee protection projects.
So to say it again, it's like meat, cheese, noodles, right? We're building a lasagna. Nobody wants a bowl of noodles, and hopefully you don't want a bowl of cheese. All of those things come together, and they're weighted based on, again, how many times a person said it and how many people of the 13 said it. And that's what's going to give us our composite map that shows the whole model.
Which is this. So here's the composite map. When you merge all of those layers together in that spatial multi-criteria decision analysis that I showed you the diagram on, and you weight them according to how they should be appropriately weighted from the TEK experts' points of view, that's what you get for the marsh creation island restoration issue.
So the teal is the highest priority areas.
The highest priorities from the locals' perspective. So you got the highest priorities, and then you go to the browns or the least priorities. And so what this is able to do is put it into a format to where it can be inserted in with other scientific models. We're not trying to supplement, we're not trying to replace the current restoration decision support process. We're just trying to add to it, supplement it with new information that they're currently not using to make restoration decisions. Currently, they don't utilize this they may utilize engineering layers, they may utilize other scientific layers in determining where to prioritize restoration projects. But with this is one method that we've demonstrated to the state that they can use to integrate this in. And what we hope is that if they integrate this in, if they're considering, say their scientific, their current engineering models or whatever, say that you should do marsh creation here, here, and here, they've got several different places. Well, if they insert this in, maybe this new information will say, okay, well, the best place to do it would be number 2 or number 1 and not number 3, because this added information helps refine that initial model.
And one other thing it does, other than just translating into a format that can be incorporated into the model, is that it allows us to extrapolate beyond where people took us. So we might have gone out with a fisherman on a day, it was too windy for them to show us an island that they wanted to show us. This allows us to extrapolate basin-wide or study area-wide and say, under these conditions, here's where you do marsh creation. So that's a big bonus. And we were able to then test this against what they drew originally in that map meeting and see if we did represent what they were saying with our model. So.
And I just overlaid the map meeting, what they drew on their maps that Michelle showed earlier. So you can see, we can look at our model and how well it lined up with where they showed us, the consensus was from the guys with those map meetings. So this is kind of one way that we validate our results. And you can see, no model is going to be 100% accurate. It's just not the way it goes, but we're pretty confident with this that we got enough areas in the high priority that we were pretty happy with. And a second validation or verification of these is that when we produced these maps, we would take them down to the local guys we worked with, and we would kind of go through this with them, show them the process and how we made the maps, and then show them the maps and say, what do you think? Did that represent what you were telling us? And we've gotten really good feedback from the guys on that.
Actually, when we went down to Lafitte and we were about to meet with some of the guys, one of them was fussing about, you can't put marsh creation on solid land and you have to do it. And he started just rattling off our location factors, and Matt and I were so excited. We're like, we have that on a paper. We're about to hand that to you. We know you think that. So it was a pretty cool process.
Yeah. And also what you can do is overlay the state's plan from the 2012 master plan. You can see the areas that they've already planned for marsh creation and overlay that on. And you can see, what this does is it allows you to visualize the state and the locals, see that, there are places that they overlap. There are places of agreement. Everybody's not as contentious as maybe sometimes led to believe from public meetings and stuff. There are areas of agreement that, up here, it may need to be refined a little bit, but, it can illustrate that to the locals and the state. Now, not only did we do for marsh creation, island restoration, but, we had 2 other issues that emerged, and one was shoreline protection, and we did the same process for shoreline protection model map. And keep in mind that the location factors for this one aren't the same. They're completely different. Well, some of them are the same, but they're not the same location factors totally. So what you get is a different map for shoreline protection. Still thinking along the same idea, the darker greens are the highest priorities for shoreline protection. As you go to the browns, it's less priority for shoreline protection. And so this illustrates that this, method can be adapted to different focus issues. And then here's one for freshwater introduction, our 3rd issue that we made. And so you could see the same process. Again, there's different location factors. And in fact, I think for these 2, how many did we have, Michelle?
For freshwater introduction, there are 9 location factors.
Yeah. And then
Shoreline was 7.
Shoreline was 7, and then we had
8, 9 for marsh creation, sorry.
Yeah, and some of them were similar that we just illustrated to you with marsh creation, but some of them were completely different. So some potential uses for these results, like we had talked before, you know, it's to help the state, it's to help illustrate this method or illustrate this TEK data in a format that the state currently doesn't utilize. And hopefully, you know, it'll illustrate areas of consensus and potential conflicts, like I just showed you, when you start overlaying, you know, the master plan areas and such. We're hoping that, you know, the state uses it to help inform their future decision-making process, you know, refine it. Could help to refine the footprints of some projects that are already on the books or that are being planned. And also, you know, it's, like I said before, it's an engagement aspect that could be a supplement to the current public meeting process that we think is very effective from all the people that participated with us. They all had really good experiences, and I think it's a really good thing to help engage the local experts that we've shown.
So in addition to some of the potential uses that we see for this process, there were along our interactions and throughout the process as we were going out with and interacting with agency and the TEK experts, we saw firsthand a lot of kind of foresight into how this could be used. So for instance, the first point up there, when we were having conversations about the operations for the point of the hash siphon, coincidentally, currently there was a modification process going on. So we were able to introduce some of the people in the Grand Bayou community and have them have a conversation about some of the actual TEK that they've experienced when the siphon the way that the siphon has been run and how they would like to see it run. In addition to that, as mentioned earlier, there were some other interactions and relationships that were fostered just from bringing the agency people out on the boat. So several times after we ended the trip, we kind of just, you know, creeped out and left the agency people and the fishermen talking, and they were exchanging business cards and making plans to come back and catch back up after. And we know for a fact that a few people have contacted some of the fishermen, and agencies have been in contact over planning QIPR projects and nominating projects for that process as well. So there were a lot of wonderful just kind of sparks, light bulbs that went off as we were going through the process as to the potential for it.